19th of June every year is World Sickle Cell Day, and this day is important because more than 300,000 children worldwide are born with the sickle cell disease, and more than half of these children also die from this disease before the age of 5.
TVC's Kemi Balogun takes a look at the life of sickle cell sufferer, the pain and the complications they go through due to having sickle cell anemia.
Hafiz Adeyemi is at work today after a series of painful sickle cell crisis episodes he has been having in the past couple of months. At 34 years old and still standing tall, you could say that Hafiz is one of the few that is toughing it out.
When the crisis comes, it's crazy. With my own crisis, it starts with abdominal pain, which then gradually moves to the joints, to my chest and everything. And one of the most uneasy crisis for me is usually the acute chest syndrome.
His pains have not stopped, but the constant visits to public hospitals leaves a sour taste in his mouth.
There have been a lot of times where there's this back and forth argument with the nurses or the doctors and whatnot, and usually it's mostly when you first get in, and they first of all look at you and say, okay, we're coming, and they abandon you for several minutes and everything, and you know that those extra minutes is a problem.
Family support during intense painful episodes by anyone who has sickle cell anemia is quite important. And for Hafiz, family plays a key role in his recovery process.
We accept the fact that the pains will come. So all we have to do is to support him and be there for him.
Like Hafiz, most sickle cell sufferers need to constantly visit the hospitals to seek the opinions of hematologists or doctors. Hematologist Ekaite David explains the importance of immediate patient care for persons who come into the emergency care units.
In Nigeria and in West Africa, hemoglobinopathies are the commonest. The sickle cell disease means that you have two abnormal hemoglobins, one of which is S, while the sickle cell anemia means that you have two abnormal hemoglobins and both of them are S. When the patient comes in crisis, the first thing that happens is there's a quick history taken to know exactly what is the problem, because there are different crises and different problems. And then the next thing, if it is a pain crisis, which is the commonest crisis presentation, they're giving painkillers.
Over the years, advocates have constantly raised awareness on the need for Africans to always check their genotype before getting married. The World Sickle Cell Day encourages everyone to get screened because knowing or discovering everyone's genotype is the first step in reducing the incidence of sickle cell disease and damages or complications that may arise and occur from this disease. The United Nations recognizes sickle cell disease as a public health problem and one of the world's foremost genetic diseases. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
Joining me now via Skype is the Executive Director, Sickle Cell Advocacy Management Initiative, Toyin Adeshola. Toyin, it's good to have you join me right now. They often talk about the issue of crisis with anyone who has sickle cell. Talk to us, what really constitutes crisis and what triggers it?
Well, crisis is as a result, because our blood cells are sickled, they don't easily pass through the veins. So when they get stuck, that's when you get crisis. But there are different types of crisis, but I'll be as simple as possible. But that's the most common type of crisis. Now, what causes it is there are several factors to it. Dehydration, that's why we are encouraged to drink a lot of water, because when the cells get stuck, the water can flush the cells so that they can move easily. So we should avoid getting dehydration. We should learn how to know when we need water as much as possible. Then secondly, infection causes it. Extreme cold or extreme hot weather also causes it, and malaria can cause it as well.
Talk to us about how to manage a situation of a crisis.
Basically, we have certain medications we're supposed to take. It's very important we take those medications on a regular basis, like a folic acid and prophylaxis to prevent malaria. And then also, we should try and reduce our workload when we know we're getting tired. We shouldn't overdo it because stress, physical stress and emotional stress also triggers it. And then we need to drink, as I said earlier on, drink plenty of water. It's very important. And then don't get yourself involved in things that might trigger infection. It's very important that we look after our health, eat a well-balanced diet. Vegetables and fruits are very important for us. You know.
All right, there's a much talk about the issue of awareness creation. Over the years, there has been continuous awareness, talk about awareness. Now, how aware are Nigerians when it comes to the knowledge of sickle cell prevalence?
Well, it's relative. You have those who are fully aware. You have those who know about sickle cell but don't really understand the ramifications of what sickle cell is all about and getting into relationship. And you have those, especially in the hinterlands, who don't even understand at all. There are several NGOs like us who try and get into those such hinterlands. But of course, you know, when you're doing a promotion or campaign like that, you need finances. So it can be really challenging trying to reach everybody.
So when it comes to prevention, because that is where they say prevention is better than cure. When it comes to prevention, what is the first thing that anybody and everybody should know about?
Prevention, in terms, you mean in terms of not having a child with sickle cell?
Yeah, anything to prevent sickle cell anemia.
Yeah, definitely. If you know your genotype has the S gene or the C gene, one has the C gene and one has the S gene. Please, as much as possible, I know it can be, you love the person and all that. As much as possible, choose wisely. Nobody's forcing you not to marry, but go for genetic counseling to get more advice on the situation. But I recommend know your genotype. It's very, very important, and do it more than once because there are labs who have been known to give false information.
All right. Toyin Adeshola, Executive Director, Sickle Cell Advocacy Management Initiative. Thank you very much for talking to us on TVC Breakfast. 19th of June every year is World Sickle Cell Day, and this day is important because more than 300,000 children worldwide are born with the sickle cell disease, and more than half of these children die from the disease before age 5.
TVC's Kemi Balogun takes a look at the life of a sickle cell sufferer.
Hafiz Adeyemi is at work today after a series of painful sickle cell crisis episodes he has been having in the past couple of months. At 34 years old and still standing tall, you could say that Hafiz is one of the few that is toughing it out.
When the crisis comes, it's crazy. With my own crisis, it starts with abdominal pain, which then gradually moves to the joints, to my chest and everything. And one of the most uneasy crisis for me is usually the acute chest syndrome.
His pains have not stopped, but the constant visits to public hospitals leaves a sour taste in his mouth.
There have been a lot of times where there's this back and forth argument with the nurses or the doctors and whatnot, and usually it's mostly when you first get in, and they first of all look at you and say, okay, we're coming, and they abandon you for several minutes and everything, and you know that those extra minutes is a problem.
Joining me via Skype is the Executive Director, Sickle Cell Advocacy Management Initiative, Toyin Adeshola. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, over 10 years since this day was adopted, yet Nigeria has the highest burden. What are we not doing correctly to address this issue?
I think the most important thing we're not doing is to get the message out there to every nook and cranny. I know government has a lot of other health challenges they have, but I think we should find a way of maybe having a proper sickle cell health policy where awareness campaigns are created so that it can reach the nook and crannies. I remember when HIV was an issue, money was pumped into it. You see campaigns, billboards, all sorts of things, because awareness is needed. Without awareness, we can reduce the amount of children born with sickle cell.
Now, when you talk about awareness, what aspect are you looking at now? Because people definitely are aware about their genotypes. So what aspects specifically are you talking about?
You'll be surprised that people they're not aware of their genotype. Maybe middle class and well-educated people, but majority don't know. Some don't even know the difference between their genotype and blood group. So yes, in terms of genotype, especially in the hinterlands, and the low-income places, it's very important that we raise that campaign. And also the information awareness about what sickle cell really is, and that sickle cell is not a death sentence, because there's a lot of stigma. Let's face it, people have different misconceptions and myths about sickle cell. So we need to create that awareness that people with sickle cell are just like anybody else, though they are just limited in certain perspectives.
Now, the children that have this deficiency, or are said rather to die before the age of 5, but you have gone past that age. How were you able to deal with this challenge up to this time?
I think the first major thing, which I always tell my fellow warriors, is you accept that you have sickle cell. We usually go to a phase of denial, depression, and all that. But once you accept, you now begin to understand, okay, I have this disorder. It's not going to control me, so I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to learn what I have to do to make myself okay. And that's what I did. I had to learn how to manage my health. I had to learn what really triggers my crisis, because everybody's experience with sickle cell is different. So you have to understand your own body. I also had to learn to eat properly and eat right. Sometimes we go to junk food, which is not very helpful. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it at all, but have it limited. And then I also learned to have a positive mind, because really the mind is a very powerful tool. And once you have doubts and fears and you keep worrying over your health and you don't move on with your life and find purpose with your life, definitely the health challenge will cripple you.
Toyin Adeshola, Executive Director, Sickle Cell Advocacy Management Initiative, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.